What if I told you that everything you've been taught about strength, ambition, and control is wrong? That the secret to ultimate power is not in fighting harder, pushing more, or resisting life's challenges, but in surrendering? It sounds almost absurd, doesn't it? We live in a world that glorifies dominance, achievement, and endless striving. We are told that the strong never give up, that winners keep pushing, that success belongs to those who take control. But what if that's just an illusion? What if the greatest power comes not from forcing life to bend to your will, but from flowing with it? This is the forgotten Taoist truth, one that has been buried under centuries of human obsession with control. And today, we're going to uncover it. Think about water. It is formless, yielding, soft. And yet, it is the most powerful force in nature. It carves mountains, shapes landscapes, and wears down even the hardest rock over time. Water does not resist, it flows. It takes the shape of whatever contains it, yet it is unstoppable. Laozi, the ancient Taoist sage, once said, "Nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water." Yet nothing can better overcome the hard and strong. What if we could live like that? What if, instead of resisting life's challenges, we surrendered to them? Would we truly be weaker, or would we become invincible?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
We spend our lives trying to control everything: our careers, our relationships, our future. We fight reality, resist change, and cling to the illusion that if we just try hard enough, we can force life to go exactly as we want. But has that ever truly worked? Or has it only led to stress, frustration, and suffering? The more we try to control, the more we realize how little control we actually have. Life is unpredictable. If people change, circumstances shift, and no matter how much we plan, the universe always has its own agenda. So why do we keep fighting? Why do we refuse to surrender? Because we fear that if we let go, we will lose everything. But what if the opposite is true? What if surrendering is not about losing control, but about gaining freedom? Think about the last time you were truly at peace. Was it when you were desperately trying to force something to happen? Or was it when you finally let go? Maybe it was when you stopped chasing a relationship that wasn't working. Maybe it was when you accepted that some things are out of your hands. Maybe it was when you stopped obsessing over an outcome and simply allowed life to unfold. In that moment, did you feel weak, or did you feel free? Surrendering does not mean giving up. It does not mean becoming passive or indifferent. It means understanding the difference between what you can control and what you cannot. It means choosing to flow with life rather than against it. It means trusting that life has its own intelligence, and that sometimes the best thing you can do is get out of your own way. Imagine standing in a river. You can fight against the current, exhausting yourself in a battle you will never win. Or you can surrender, allowing the river to carry you effortlessly to where you need to go. Which choice is wiser? Which choice is more powerful? But here's where it gets even deeper. When you surrender, you don't just gain peace, you gain power. Because when you stop wasting energy on things you cannot control, you free up energy for the things you can influence. When you stop trying to force people to love you, you become more magnetic. When you stop obsessing over success, you create space for true creativity and innovation. When you stop resisting change, You adapt faster and thrive in uncertainty. Surrendering is not weakness, it is the highest form of strength. It is the ability to dance with life instead of fighting it. It is the wisdom to know that true power is not in domination, but in alignment. So ask yourself, what are you resisting right now? What are you trying to control that is only causing you suffering? What would happen if you let go? Would your world collapse, or would it finally open up? Would you fall, or would you finally learn to fly? We have been conditioned to believe that surrender is defeat. But what if surrender is actually liberation? The illusion of control and the freedom of letting go. The illusion of control is one of the greatest deceptions of the human mind. We convince ourselves that if we plan carefully enough, work hard enough, and anticipate every possible outcome, we can bend life to our will. We believe that control is safety, that certainty is power, and that if we just tighten our grip, we can prevent things from falling apart. But have you ever noticed that the tighter you hold onto something, the more fragile it becomes? The more you try to control a situation, the more resistance you create. The more you chase after security, the more anxious you feel. The more you try to control people, the more they pull away. Why? Why? Bunta. Because control is an illusion. It was never real to begin with. Think about the moments in your life that shaped you the most. Were they carefully planned events that went exactly as expected? Or were they the unexpected detours, the failures, the moments where life forced you in a direction you never intended to go? The greatest transformations happen not when we are in control, but when we are forced to surrender. When we lose the job we thought defined us, when the relationship we clung to dissolves, when the future we envisioned suddenly disappears. In those moments we are given a choice: fight against reality and suffer, or surrender and evolve. And the truth is, life is constantly asking us to surrender. But surrender is terrifying to the ego. The ego wants certainty, predictability, and control. It wants to believe that we are the masters of our destiny, that we can dictate every outcome, that we are in charge. But reality does not operate according to the ego's demands. But the universe is vast, chaotic, and infinitely complex. There are forces at play far beyond our comprehension. No matter how much we strategize, we cannot control the weather, the economy, other people's decisions, or the timing of certain events. We can influence, we can prepare, we can respond, but we cannot control. And yet, we exhaust ourselves trying. Imagine a man standing in the ocean, trying to push back the waves with his hands. It's absurd, isn't it? The ocean is vast, powerful, and indifferent to his struggle. No matter how much he fights, the waves will keep coming. But what if, instead of resisting, he learned to surf? What if he stopped fighting the ocean and instead learned to move with it? This is the essence of surrender, not passivity, not weakness, but the wisdom to align with forces greater than yourself. This is why the greatest warriors, the greatest thinkers, and the greatest leaders throughout history have understood the power of surrender. The samurai knew that fear of death weakened them in battle, so they surrendered to the possibility of death, making them fearless. The Stoics knew that suffering came not from external events, but from our resistance to them, so they surrendered their attachment to outcomes, making them unshakable. The Taoists knew that life is like a river, constantly changing, so they surrendered to its flow, making them adaptable and wise. But how do we surrender in a world that constantly tells us to take control? How do we let go when everything inside us is screaming to hold on? The answer lies in trust. Trust that life is not against you, but working through you. Trust that the things falling apart are making space for something better. Trust that even in uncertainty, there is intelligence beyond what you can see. Trust is the bridge between fear and freedom. It is the difference between a life of struggle and a life of flow. So ask yourself, what are you clinging to right now that is causing you pain? What would happen if you loosened your grip? What if instead of trying to force an outcome, you allowed life to unfold? Would you be powerless, or would you finally experience the freedom you've been searching for? The paradox of surrender is that when you stop trying to control everything, you gain true power. You move with life instead of against it. You stop wasting energy on things you cannot change and redirect it toward what you can influence. You stop reacting out of fear and start acting from a place of deep wisdom. And most importantly, you free yourself from the exhausting illusion that you were ever in control to begin with. Effortless power is the kind of strength that does not need to assert itself. It is the quiet confidence of a river carving through rock, the unshakable presence of a mountain standing against the wind, the ease with which a tree bends in a storm without breaking. This is the power that comes not from force, but from surrender. And yet, we have been conditioned to believe that power must be aggressive, that effort must be exhausting, that control must be seized. But what if the most powerful beings in the world are not the ones who fight, but the ones who flow? What if true mastery is not about dominating life, but about aligning with it? The greatest athletes, the greatest artists, the greatest visionaries all understand this principle. They enter a state of flow where effort dissolves, where action becomes effortless, where they are no longer forcing, but simply allowing. When a martial artist moves with their opponent rather than against them, they become untouchable. When a surfer surrenders to the wave instead of resisting it, they become one with the ocean. When a musician lets go of overthinking and allows the music to play through them, they reach a level of mastery that cannot be taught. This is the secret. Surrender is not giving up, it is stepping into a greater intelligence than your own. But why is this so difficult for us? Why do we insist on making life harder than it has to be? Because we do not trust. We do not trust that life will support us unless we fight for everything. We do not trust that we are enough unless we prove ourselves. We do not trust that things will unfold in our favor unless we control them. But trust is the key to effortless power. The moment you stop resisting life, life starts working for you instead of against you. The moment you stop forcing relationships, the right people naturally gravitate toward you. The moment you stop obsessing over success, creative breakthroughs come effortlessly. The moment you stop fearing failure, you become unstoppable. This is the forgotten Taoist truth. Life is naturally intelligent, but it knows how to grow a tree from a seed without effort. It knows how to make the sun rise without struggle. It knows how to heal wounds, to create, to evolve, and it knows how to guide you if you let it. But surrender requires deep presence. It requires you to stop living in your mind and start living in the moment. because the mind is always trying to control, always trying to plan, always trying to predict. But life does not happen in the mind. It happens here, now, in the present. Have you ever noticed that the best moments of your life were the ones you did not plan? The moments of deep laughter, of spontaneous adventure, of unexpected beauty? These moments happen not because you forced them, but because you allowed them. What if all of life could be like that? What if instead of chasing happiness, you allowed happiness to arise naturally? What if instead of controlling love, you allowed love to flow freely? What if instead of forcing success, you created space for success to find you? This does not mean that you do nothing. It means that your actions come from a place of alignment rather than struggle. It means that you move when it is time to move and wait when it is time to wait. It means you trust your intuition over your fear, your flow over your force. Look at nature. Does the sun rush to rise faster? Does the river struggle to reach the ocean? Does the flower force itself to bloom before its time? No, everything in nature moves effortlessly, in perfect timing, without strain. And yet, everything is accomplished. This is the way of effortless power. This is the way of the Tao. So ask yourself, where in your life are you creating unnecessary struggle? What are you forcing that no longer needs to be forced? What would happen if you stopped trying so hard and started trusting more? Would your life fall apart, or would it finally come into harmony? The more you let go, the more life flows. The more you surrender, the more powerful you become. Because true power is not in resistance, it is in alignment. But true strength is not in struggle, it is in surrender. And the ultimate paradox of life is this: when you stop trying to control everything, you finally gain control over yourself. This is the forgotten Taoist truth. This is the secret to ultimate power. But if surrender is the key to ultimate power, why do so few people embrace it? Why do we cling to struggle as if it were our only path to success? Because we have been conditioned to believe that effort equals worth, that suffering equals progress, that if we are not constantly pushing, striving, and forcing, then we are failing. From childhood, we are told that to succeed, we must fight harder, work longer, and never let go. We are taught that surrender is weakness, that letting things unfold naturally is irresponsible, that if we do not grip life with both hands and wrestle it into submission, we will be left behind. But what if this is the greatest lie we have ever been told? What if the truth is that the more we push, the more resistance we create? That the more we try to control life, the more chaotic it becomes? That the more we force, the further we drift from what we truly desire? Look at the most peaceful, content, and successful people in the world. They are not the ones who are the most stressed, the most anxious, or the most forceful. They are the ones who have mastered the art of allowing. They understand when to act and when to wait. They know when to push forward and when to step back. They operate in harmony with life, not in resistance to it. And because of this, their actions are infinitely more powerful. But surrender requires something that most people are unwilling to embrace: trust. To surrender, you must trust that life is not against you, but for you. You must trust that even the things that seem like failures are guiding you to something greater. You must trust that there is an intelligence far beyond your mind that is orchestrating events in ways you cannot yet understand. But trust is terrifying. The mind wants certainty, guarantees, control. It wants to know exactly how things will unfold before it takes the first step. But life does not work that way. Life requires a leap of faith. It requires you to move even when you do not know where the path will lead. It requires you to let go of the need to have all the answers before you begin. And this is where most people stop. They grasp for control because they are afraid to trust. They cling to struggle because it feels safer than uncertainty. They force life into rigid structures because they fear what will happen if they let go. But what if the very thing you are afraid to release is the thing that is holding you back? What if, by loosening your grip, you allow life to give you something far greater than you could have ever forced into existence? Think about the times in your life when you tried to control everything, when you planned every detail, when you obsessed over every outcome. Did it ever truly bring you peace? Or did it only create more anxiety, more frustration, more exhaustion? Now think about the moments when you finally let go, when you surrendered to the unknown, when you allowed things to unfold instead of forcing them. Didn't those moments feel lighter, freer, more aligned? This is not a coincidence. It is a fundamental truth of life. The more you resist, the more you suffer. The more you let go, the more things fall into place. This does not mean you become passive. It does not mean you stop taking action. It means your actions come from a place of trust rather than fear, from alignment rather than desperation. It means you stop fighting what is and start working with it. Imagine you are holding onto a rope, pulling with all your strength, trying to drag something toward you. Your hands are burning, your muscles are aching, your mind is consumed with the struggle. But what if you were to let go? What if, instead of pulling harder, you released the rope entirely? Would you lose what you were fighting for? Or would you finally free yourself from the unnecessary suffering of resistance? This is the choice life presents to us every day: hold on and struggle, or let go and flow. And the truth is, the greatest things in life, love, creativity, wisdom, joy, cannot be forced. They can only arise when we make space for them. So ask yourself, what are you still trying to control that is only causing you pain? What would happen if you surrendered, not as an act of defeat, but as an act of ultimate power? Would your world collapse, or would you finally experience the freedom you have been seeking all along? The greatest paradox of surrender is that when you stop trying to control life, life starts working in your favor. You no longer waste energy on resistance. You no longer live in fear of the unknown. You no longer chase, force, or struggle. Instead, you align, respond, and trust. And in that trust, you find a power greater than anything you could have ever achieved through force. This is the forgotten Taoist truth. This is the secret to effortless power. This is the path to true freedom.